Um, I think it's hard for me to say anything other than like the class tree changes were good. Like that was just, long awaited, long needed, and it was good. They were mostly okay. I'm not like particularly happy about us not gaining any economy there, but they were like well needed changes. Stuff like the reinforced plates thing and overwhelming rage being reduced to 1 point. That's like all good shit.
Do you
I'm
think
still
stuff?
like
Oh, good.
I was gonna say I just like I'm still not happy that every single like gateway talent in the tier 3 section are 2 pointers. That's still a little bit cringe, and like we still have to drop a lot of damage to like get stuff like uproar, which is like really stupid, but yeah, they're
Yes.
moving in the right direction at least.
Yeah. I. Do you think that stuff like Ret Paladins, like for example, sanctified plates? Do you think one of the reasons why they didn't do this to reinforce plates sooner is because of sanctified plates? They're like, oh, we're just copying, or do you think it just
I
wasn't
mean,
considered at all?
maybe um I I think it's more likely that they probably just weren't thinking about Warrior because like I mean, at this point, I would like previously it was like enhancement was like the red-haired stepchild, right?
Hmm.
Enhancement and like survival, I guess. But and Windwalker actually. It seems like Warrior has sort of fallen into that position, like both DPS specs, which is like insane. Um, so I think they probably just weren't really thinking about it, and they were just like designing things that like seemed reasonable to them. That would be my guess. It's like it's a lot more powerful for sure, but like that's kind of the point, They want to make like powerful stuff that's like cool and makes you feel good about it, especially when it's like pretty much exclusively survival and like utility shit. So
Yeah,
they need to make it like powerful to make the choice feel impactful.
because
So I
going,
think we just got the short end of the stick and like not being considered for a while.
one of the things I really feared going into at least this patch in the War Within was the fact that they shuffled up our talent tree, and I'm like, man, I really hope that that's just not
Yeah.
what our rework is going to
Yeah.
be. And we just seemingly got bypassed over monks, hunters, druids, paladins
Yeah.
for the third time. Like, we just seemingly got bypassed for all of that. And I think it comes down to, like they say in this developer note on the patch notes, we feel that warriors are in a good place overall. And it's like, I don't think so, man.
Yeah. So like okay, there's nothing there's nothing like objectively incorrect about that statement, right? Like I don't think they're necessarily wrong. That like Warrior is mostly fine. Like yeah, sure. There's some stuff in arms that's a bit unsavory, but like largely the spec works, and it's the same with Fury, and like Fury has been fun for years, so it's like okay, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's the mentality they're approaching Warrior with, and it's like kind of led to this place where it's just everything's stale because nothing has changed. Because if it's not broken, don't fix it. And I think when you're in the creative space, that's like a really shit ideology to have because you shouldn't be looking at things from the lens of like, oh yeah, well it's good enough. You should always be trying to innovate and make like new and interesting things to engage players instead of like playing it safe and being like okay well this works.
So a lot of these changes they've made, I feel like, well, honestly, I think they might just be behind. I feel like they're
I
just behind on stuff. Like looking at how Dark Ranger turned out and how it had to get completely reworked when it felt like that rework was already in the chamber. It just
yeah definitely
like these ideas for how they want the warrior class tree to be, and like just how they treated weapon specializations, how they've changed over reinforced plates now have stamina because of where endurance training was just fighting against pure throughput, and it just didn't make any sense. And
yeah.
one
I
thing
do
I
think that like
they're good.
those changes are probably backlog. Those were probably like backlog from the beta and they just like didn't have the chance or time to make them. You could like make the argument why not release it in like 11.0.7, but like that wasn't really what that patch was for. um and 10.0.5 or 11.05 they probably had like other shit that they wanted to handle, so I think it is probably just a lot of backlog with like the class tree stuff, like the dual point spec, the dual wield spec, and the reshuffling shit. Like they knew about. They're just using beta.
Because
They probably just
I
didn't. Yeah.
like what they did, right? I think
Yeah,
that
it's good.
the
It's
the
good.
reinforced plates thing, fantastic, right? Like
Yeah.
I didn't realize that warriors were actually, as far as like
Yeah, they're
looking,
pretty bad.
well looking
It's
at the death rankings, I didn't realize
yeah.
warriors were literally at the top in both. I'm like, oh fuck.
It is really bad. And like this has been talked about in Skybolt a little bit. Like mostly it's because a lot of warrior survivability is like uh proactive. So you have to use it before any damage comes out, which is hard to plan and like be consistent with. And also there's no forgiveness for if you make a mistake. If you make a mistake, you're fucked. Like we don't have any one shot protection or anything like that. You're just dead. We have no immunities. We just have like we don't even have a larger than average HP pool because every other plate DPS is higher HP than us. So it's like, yeah, it's pretty bad actually.
It's like
And it's worse if you don't know how to utilize your kit.
like
Obviously,
the only thing that I felt like we had, like when I think about it, I think about Kai Vesa, and it's like, oh, the last when everyone gets the line, you can spell reflect that, and then you're just totally
yeah,
safe from that. So I
yep,
feel like we should be above average tankiness on that fight specifically, but otherwise, we definitely you have die by the sword, and then you have spell reflect, or you have rage
in range for
regeneration
regen, yeah,
and defensive stance and spell reflect. And I've honestly not really, before playing my DK, like I played my classes, the other classes kind of like normally, but take my hunter for example. Anytime you pop the heal, it also gives you a 50% value of survival of the fittest if you're playing Dark Ranger. But most people are playing Pack Leader, which just got reworked, so it didn't have that level of defensive, but it had two charges of survival
yeah.
of the fittest. It had a self heal. It has turtle. Um, I didn't realize how little even defensive utility Warrior had, where it's like we're tanky, but we don't have, like, you look at a DK, they have Lichborn, IBF, AMS every 40 seconds.
Yep.
Just the, I mean,
And they
DK,
also just have enough HP and self healing to like
like
tank web
my
blades.
my Frost DK has, I think, 8.8 million health
Yeah,
in the keys I'm doing
it's
right now.
it's ridiculous.
It's
It's insane.
crazy. Um, and we have to use tools like Steadfast as the peaks, and even specking into endurance training to even get close to that kind of health. That's
Yeah,
15%
and
stamina, and it's not even matching a single talent point in the tier 1 set of the DK
it's
tree,
yeah, no,
which
it's
they've
crazy.
remedied.
And it's like it's even worth noting that like the go-to raid talent build, basic like the Slayer has like zero defensive utility.
Yeah,
It has death drive. That's it. And
I
death drive, to be quite frank, fucking blows.
I
Like
can't
that's really
believe it
bad.
didn't let us overshield. Like I can't
It's crazy.
like why couldn't they have just taken the condemn idea and let us overshield
I don't
with
know.
sudden death proc? And now they're
It's
also
wacky.
forcing us. Was that in this patch, or was that in the 11.0 patch where we're forced into sudden death as well to make the
It
spec
is
function?
11.1.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that big
That's
of a
also
change, but it's just more talent bloat where
it's a
it's less damage.
pretty bad change. You're gonna so like sudden death is cool and all. It's like nice for consistent rage gen and like more consistent CDR for Slayer. But this is literally a button that you don't want to press unless if you have 3 stacks of marked for
I think they
execution.
just need to buff sudden. Like I feel like execute
They
did
need to
not
do
get buffed.
something. I don't know
Well,
what the fuck they need to do.
I think execute ever since Juggernaut got fucking nerfed into the fucking ground when you could stack it to 99 for Fury, and then it just never came back. Like it's just
Well,
never been a
so
desirable button to press outside of, hey, this button gives me more of a different button.
I think it's just like slid down this slippery slope. And you're right to an extent. It is like definitely as a consequence of Legion, but like they just haven't prioritized it as a button. And now they're prioritizing it as a button, but they haven't buffed the damage from when it wasn't. And so you're just left with this button that basically hits, it hits pretty hard. I think it hits harder than Rampage, but it has like nothing that interacts with it except for stuff that is directly tied to sudden death. But it's only tied to the sudden death from Slayer. So it's like you're just getting these natty sudden death procs with no damage amp, and this button doesn't interact with any of your other buttons. So it's like, why do I want to press this except for to not munch a proc? Like, that's literally it. You're gonna use it to like maintain Juggernaut and to not munch procs, and if one of your procs is about to expire, and that's pretty much it. That like it is a really fucking bad button. They just need to buff it by like fucking 30% or something. I mean, that's like the lazy way to do it. You could also just like change a bunch of talents and give better execute synergy with other buttons, but you know.
I just feel like it should be like 75 to 80% of the damage of a crushing blow, and it makes you want to press it in your normal rotation in execute phase. Like that, it just needs to do.
I mean,
more damage.
I'm gonna be honest with you. It needs to be the best button in our kit by like 20%. It needs to like deal a big fucking amount of damage. And with a cooldown, that's fine because you're limiting the rate at which you can press it. You do have to like balance around Slayer. That's a little bit aids, but you know, what can you do? But like, you should want to press this button. You get a free proc of it. You want to press it. Yeah, the fact that you don't is kind of abysmal.
Because it's actually really funny. Something I've been doing on the other classes, and something I started doing a little bit on Warrior is just like you press the light up and you press the thing when it's off cooldown. But I think I actually think I'm gonna double. I'm pretty sure I rank 1'd this patch, not the previous patch of Silken Court, because I straight up you wait 15 seconds and then you just send. Yep. I don't think I'm still rank 1 anymore, but. You just, yeah, not anymore. But you just send everything on CD over and over again, and you don't think about it. It's very, you know the graph of like the guy, haha, I press buttons, and then the guy, I'm doing this, and then haha, I press. I feel I'm on the second part of the haha, I press buttons.
Yeah,
right now.
That's like the arms bit, right? Like you just don't give a fuck about anything. You just press your buttons and like you do good damage, and that's also pretty abysmal design wise. Like not having any care for lining up cooldowns is pretty fucking bad, man.
Yeah, I also going into arms. If we're going into as part of the tree.
Yeah.
I thought it was really funny where it's like. So arms should feel good about pressing Mortal Strike. Yeah, we should, before you nerfed it by 20%. Going into the expansion, before we even got to test it. And then gave... Like, that's the one thing I don't understand that happened to arms. Where, take Colossus, for example. Colossus lost a lot of damage. Like, it lost the Mortal Strike damage, it lost DR, it lost the demolished damage reduction... And they just gave literally all of it back 1-to-1 after the tier was over. Like, so what was the point
man?
of those nerfs? Like,
who the fuck knows?
We literally were in a beta cycle, and then it was like, why did this happen?
So I mean, it's the inverse of what happened with Fury and Odin's Fury, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're going into beta got buffed by 136%, right? And since that buff, it has been nerfed by about 40%, okay? So I'm pretty sure the cumulative buff to Odin's Fury now is something like 20% instead of the 136. They nerfed it from 136% back down to 20%. And it's like, okay, so why the fuck did you buff it in the first place? It's the same button it used to be.
Like they did that, and then they just didn't... I guess they just didn't think Titan's Torment existed. Because it's just like, okay, well, I just get double the cast of this button that just got buffed by 1 billion. Like, I don't... It's very...
I mean, they just design shit with no foresight, right? Like, they do all these, like, buffs to Odin's Fury, and then they design a raid with, like, 1 million bosses that all have ads that need to die in 2 seconds. And then they're like, oh shit, the guy that does all of their damage in 2 seconds is popping off! We have to nerf it!
The problem is, that's their design. They designed 5 of the 8 raid encounters
with ads that you want to explode. So why the fuck? So of course people are gonna play the ad explode character. It was nice that Fury had like that niche in it, but
Yeah,
at the
it's
same
cool.
time, it was like, okay, well, I still can't
It
believe
was
we
cool
got
until we
fucked.
got punished for it.
Well, we got fucked through heroic logs, and then we didn't even get high keys to test in yet because, like, oh yeah, the moment your stuff is down, and we also don't do more burst damage than other classes. So like,
I mean,
our burst
shit,
got
dude, we
nerfed.
got
So
nerfed off of heroic dungeons too. Like, it was just
this
fucking
Fury Warrior's
ridiculous.
deleting my dungeon. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know. It was ridiculous.
It was like just the most incompetent fucking tuning process in the first like 2 weeks of the expansion that I've ever seen in my life.
And now,
It was bad.
but going into the arms changes, like this is really weird. So they're like, they want to move damage into Mortal Strike and off of, like, why didn't they do this before? Nobody likes damage amp on damage amp on damage. Just let my button do damage. Also, this is technically more than a 15% damage buff when you consider things like the you get the execute or the cleave back after you cast it. I don't remember the talent name in the tree.
Oh, exhilarating blows.
Yeah. So this is technically a higher damage buff than 15%, considering that option.
Yep.
But then they also nerfed our bleed damage by 5%. And then Blood Surge now only. Who was running Blood Surge?
Who the fuck knows?
And so now Blood Surge only works off deep wounds instead of just bleeds?
And it's less rage.
Yeah. It's like, okay, alright, cool.
Yeah, stuff like that. I just like, it seems that they want to move back in the direction of like arms being big heavy hits, right? Which cool.
People want, yeah.
Like,
that I'm down with that.
It's good,
just
for sure.
It's just weird where it's like, hey man, okay, I would love big heavy hits, but why do I need to care about the tier set buff? Like, why is Mortal Strike so bad that we need 2 stacks of Executioner's Precision, 2 stacks of the tier set, and even then maybe another stack or 2 of Martial Prowess for it to even be worth pressing in Execute?
Who knows?
Like, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. Something I'll say about, like, and this applies to like all of the warrior changes, not just arms, but like a lot of these changes, it really feels like we don't even have half the picture. We have like a quarter or a third of like what they want to do. And the thing that I'm worried about is that like that's a quarter of or a third in like a hypothetical world. Okay, I'm really worried that they just made these changes and that's like all they have.
Yeah.
And in a vacuum, these changes make zero fucking sense. Like, there is no reason to nerf like the bleed synergy in arms without compensating massively elsewhere, because so much of your damage comes from bleeds. Yeah, it's just a lot of these changes are like fucking bewildering. It's really crazy to see. I'm happy we got changes for sure.
But it always feels like 2 steps forward, 1 step back with these kinds of things where
it's weird to serve changes like these piecemeal. That's the biggest like ick I'm getting from this. It's just like, why are you pacing it so much?
Like, assuredly, there should be more, or like you could see something like buffing exhilarating blows to 25%, or maybe buffing Battle Lord back up to maybe like 40% or something. Because it's like, hey, we want you to hit these big, hard hitting buttons, right? And I'm down with that. I want that. Removing Colossal Might from Execute feels very. I feel like this change is more telling that Mortal Strike is a far worse button than Execute is, especially when you have Juggernaut stacks, which who knows? Maybe Ashen Juggernaut itself is just a problem and should go.
I think there's probably a pretty likely case that talent doesn't survive into midnight. I think it's problematic. I understand that it's cool and like thematic to warrior, but
I don't really think most people care. It's just like, I'm just gonna.
No, I think most people probably hate it, or at least like the people that care enough to voice their opinions probably hate it.
Like
for the most part, anyways.
Like, I'd be down if you if, for example, you could do something like, instead of having Ash and Juggernaut, you could make execute cost 80 rage, and then it would go on a cooldown or something. Something fun, right? Like, I want the button to do damage.
So I'm not even like, I don't even necessarily like that idea, but the fact that they haven't even like experimented with this shit is what's so like offensive to me about these changes, right? Like, if I saw that change in the arms thing, right, I would be like, wow, that seems kind of insane to play around. But like, at least they're fucking doing something, you know? Like, at least it's interesting and makes you think about the way you have to play around it.
Yeah, because one of the biggest rants that I've had. You go ahead.
That's basically just old Storm of Steel or Storm of Swords for arms, right? Like the Whirlwind talent that gave it Whirlwind big ass cooldown, did big ass damage, costed big rage as well. I think that would be pretty interesting to have tied to something like Execute. You would have to like add additional talent interaction for stuff like Executioner's Precision, where like, you know, you get more value out of Executioner's Precision if you have this talent because you're not going to be pressing Execute as much. And that's interesting to think about. It's like an interesting design choice, but they're just not doing anything. They're just like leaving it the way it is, even though like people have been complaining incessantly since, you know, Shadowlands.
Because going into this tier with these changes, I initially thought that we might go into like a Colossus tier.
Yeah.
But I feel like they've got to have something. Like,
I mean, I sure as shit hope so.
But like you said, this could literally just be it.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about right now, because like personally, my
because I feel like all this got thrown out because they're like, hey, we want to give the community was getting negative again. Let's throw them a bone before we take winter break. Let's look at this stuff.
They definitely threw us a bone to like, you know, generate hype over the holidays so people come back excited and like reinvigorated and shit like that. And I think probably for most classes, this did the trick. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are happy.
Dude, even just the Demon Hunter one, they put in the tier set talent where it just automatically throws glaives.
Awesome.
Like, I saw that and I was like, woo, Demon Hunter's fun again. I don't want to press that fucking shit button.
That's just an easy win, you know? Yeah. That's like, I wish they would do stuff like that for Warrior. And to some extent they did, you know? They made Overwhelming Rage one node or 1 point instead of 2, which like that's something I've kind of wanted for a long time, because truly it's not a 2-point worthy talent in my opinion. It doesn't do enough. Yeah. It's really just quality of life. There should be no reason you should spend 2 talent points on it. And you know, stuff like baking endurance training into reinforced plates, that's sick. I had never thought of that. That's an epic fucking W, you know?
I can't wait to have actual health next year, because like, although all the melee class to take stamina talents, not take test stamina.
Hold on, let me check Wildhead really quick. But something that I haven't seen people talk about so much is that that also does just straight up. Oh no, it doesn't, because they made reinforced plates 1 talent. Nice. Okay, never mind. That's good.
It does. Yeah.
I was thinking about the fucking Dragonflight one where it gave us 20 armor, and I was like, oh, okay, well they just nerfed us. But yeah, no, that's a good change. No opportunity cost. You just get 10% more HP. That's good.
And the warrior tree balance as far as skill points is still the exact same, with 2 to 1 in the same tier.
That I'm not so. Yeah, that I'm not so happy about, because it really feels like we have at most 1 talent to play around with, and you know, for any given fight, you know, for something like Anserac, like, right? Let's say, for example, getting Bitter Immunity and Wrecking Throw. Not sure why you'd want Wrecking Throw to begin with, though, because that button sucks. And like, you know, stuff like Intervene, Bitter Immunity, Wrecking Throw. You can make arguments for all of these things. Same with Honed Reflexes, but you can only get like 1 of them or 2 of them. You know, if you're really willing to drop shit, which is like
good,
not inherently bad. But you shouldn't, like something like Wrecking Throw, right? You shouldn't have to sacrifice throughput to justify taking something like Intervene to get more movement for rests, or like Bitter Immunity for more HP.
Yeah, I feel like the biggest culprit at this point is actually the top of the tree.
The top of the tree leading down feels way too restrictive. You end up taking stuff you either don't want to or don't like to
yeah,
get
like
to
Thunderclap and Stormbolt. It's pretty lame.
Yeah, they just need to make Thunderclap baseline and then move Crackling Thunder into that spot. Like, it just doesn't make any sense not to, because like realistically, what's the worst that's gonna happen is you play Fury, but maybe they just tie Thunderclap in Fury to Mountain Thane, so you don't even have it in your spell book if they're worried someone's gonna fucking use it.
Probably should be, honestly. Like, I'm fine with Crackling Thunder being a choice node or like an actual talent node, because it's not something that you necessarily always want, even though it's like highly beneficial most of the time. But like having to pay a talent point tax in your class tree, competing against things that like Rallying Cry and fucking Spell Reflect and Heroic Leap, Impending Victory. Why do I have to pay a talent point to enable my hero spec?
It's just weird where like the left side of the tree, like the outside nodes, feel pretty much fucking dead for PvE. Like,
yeah, it's odd, isn't it?
Intimidating Shout still being capped to 5. So here's the thing I don't understand: why Intimidating Shout is still capped at 5 targets, even though like there's not even a PvP reason for it. Like, I mean, what are you gonna go up against? Like a fucking,
who knows?
A warlock, and they're gonna summon a bunch of pets, and they're like, "Oh no, you can fear a bunch of pets." Like, how? Like, why is this thing? Why is this thing still like this? Thing would actually be a potentially nice pickup for Mythic Plus, but the other problem is because we don't have any flex points with how the tree is set up. It's like, what are you competing against? Okay, you can take a point in Intimidating Shout, or you're taking Thunderclap or Crackling Thunder, or if it was better, maybe Crackling Thunder is there, you could play around it, and you could take Reinforced Plates instead. But like the left side of the our talents just feel so very, very weird, where there is talents in our tree that aren't even utility, they're just obviously talents for PvP. Like, just straight up PvP talents in the tree.
Pretty insane.
Instead of there just being in the PvP talents, so they're just there like taking space, and we're like, all right.
Yeah, Cacophonous Roar is a great example. Fucking Intimidating Show can withstand 200% more damage before breaking. It's like, this has 0 PV applications. Literally none. Like, it is useless all the time.
Like, they removed...
And it's the same with Shattering Throw, although that's not an issue because it's on a choice node, right?
Hey, you don't talk bad about Shattering Throw. Every 3 minutes, we could deal with a single Incorporeal last season, alright? A single one.
Go.
Let's go! Warrior Utility, we did it!
Man, I'd love to be able to pick up like Piercing Howl or Berserker Shout every once in a while. That'd be cool, But no such luck.
Yeah, no, it's like, well, the thing is, even if we wanted Berserker Shout, like, imagine it's like, okay, we don't take a Shaman into Ingramalock in
it's
in
like
Miss, and we can take Berserker Shout, but it's 12 yards. And it's a talent point.
It's 12 yards and it's a talent point, and you can't pre-pop it.
Yeah, it is.
It's good. It's real good.
It is fucking terrible. Like, it is just very wild how it's just like, hey, here are your PvP talents, and then here's the rest of the tree.
Yeah, the issue to me is like, it's very clear that like Warrior is just insanely outdated. And like they sort of admitted as much in the like note about Fury. They were like, yeah, we're just bringing some stuff up to date. And it's like they did 2 talents, and it's not even like the worst 2 talents that we had. So, yeah, it's pretty wild. It's like very evident to me that like Fury is just leaps and bounds behind where more modern design classes are. Stuff like Rep Paladin and Monk and all this other shit. Well, pretty much every class in the game except Warrior.
Because even like it was Monk that felt antiquated, but now Monk got lighter than air by itself as one of the craziest buttons I've ever seen. I'm like, they're playing a different game, man. Those guys are like I see people use lighter than air on like every single rest, and they just, that mechanic doesn't exist for them. Like, it's actually crazy. But Yeah, the whole needing to take sudden death thing, it's kind of weird. It's just talent point bloat. Like, it's not bad for arms, but it's kind of weird for Fury. But I don't think arms changed that much. But really going into Fury, the change... I've thought about this redesign for a while. About the change, because I thought Reckless Abandon was actually one of my... even if it was equal to... anger management, because that's where they actually had it. They got anger management up. They buffed the base level of Raging Blow and Bloodthirst, and they got it pretty close or just about the same as Reckless Abandon to like a stylized choice. And I really liked Reckless Abandon because it gave me good buttons to press outside of my cooldown windows. And now we are the one thing I'm worried for Fury for is going into next tier. We are either going to be we're going to be so cooldown dependent that it's either going to line up or fit a fight to the point where it's going to be really good, or it's going to be fucking trash with these redesigns and how cooldown oriented this class will become and how our general throughput. It's really, I don't really understand it, where arms is supposed to be this big hard-hitting spec, but now arms is the consistent damage through the changes to like Cleave and Reap the Storm, or if you're playing Colossus, and Fury is now moving towards this very, very cooldown heavy specialization instead of just like general throughput and passive Cleave, which has kind of been its mainstay. And I don't know if I like these changes going into it.
I'm going to be honest, I don't like them designing things with the idea of like, oh yeah, it's like I don't think that consistent sustained damage needs to be this needs to equal like by 5,000 cuts, right? Like you can have consistent sustained damage without being the death by 1,000 cuts like archetype, right? I kind of like exact backwards. What I'm saying is like Fury design being death by 5,000 cuts from like whirlwind of death archetype doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be ultra sustained damage. That is what I should have said. Like you can have it so that both are done. You know what I mean?
Because I honestly think what they should have done with Fury is turned it into a 30 or 45 second class.
See, so that kind of like already gets accomplished by taking anger management. The issue is that like recklessness is just such a stink shit fucking poopy cooldown that it just doesn't matter. Like you can get down to like 45 seconds, 50 seconds with anger management right now, I'm pretty sure. I think 40 or 45, somewhere around there. And like you can feel good about it, but at the end of the day, like rec just doesn't feel good. So like it just I don't know.
Like it doesn't do any bonus damage. It's just a bit of spell crit and some rage. And it's like
it stinks.
It's not.
It really stinks.
It's not a good button.
It's like interesting, right? Like they want to move Fury more towards this like cooldown dependent spec, right? But recklessness just sucks. So like how are you going to accomplish that?
And it's kind of why everyone takes Reckless Abandon, because it feels good.
But it's like current Reckless Abandon, right? It doesn't even like increase recklessness's effectiveness. It just increases baseline Fury effectiveness, which is why that talent has been so dominant for so long. It's just insane value for 1 point. And I do think that like going back to the Shadowlands style of Reckless Abandon is good. But it's like at the same time their reasoning is just so fucking ass backwards. It's like, yeah, we want to move Fury more towards this cooldown dependent style. But like isn't that what we've been punished for since like the start of this expansion, is being too cooldown dependent? Like you routinely nerfed all of our burst damage. So like aren't we already there? So why are we saying that like we want to move it back to like it just doesn't they just have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of at odds with itself because I'm also trying to consider
exactly 100%
because I'm trying to consider it also right. Is in like an AoE capacity, like a Mythic Plus capacity.
where does this put us when it's like, hey, they want Odin's Fury to be a good button to press on its own? I mean, like, yeah, sure, cool, but
that's good.
Where does
that's a good design?
But with these changes,
direction.
where does this put us at? Like, we're gonna own 5 targets in a pack? Like
where are the rest of the changes to supplement this change? You know?
Yeah, it just feels like you said. I'm somewhat worried that this is all it is, which it most certainly, or I really hope it's not.
Yeah, you hope so.
Like,
I mean, shit, dude. I was saying the same thing for all of Dragonflight. It's like, oh, surely we had some changes. Like this patch for sure.
Like this one, like Titan's Torment. While Avatar is active, Rampage Rage cost is reduced by 20, and Bloodthirst cooldown is reduced by a second and a half. Like, it feels like
a weird one.
It's very weird. It's like cool. Where I like it, and then it's like, okay, well, I guess in this burst window, you're just going to be Rampage, Bloodbath, Rampage, Bloodbath. Yeah, that's the way I feel like it's supposed to be like designed, and you're supposed to take Reckless Abandon with it, where you're just in this fucking...
you're the meat grinder. You're just fucking churning out bloodbaths.
What I would honestly also like to see with some of these things is, what if during Recklessness we just had like permanent whirlwind stacks, making Recklessness actually a way better button, like have an actual value to
it. That should probably be a talent, or it can just like get a
No, I think you could put it in a
agree,
talent.
Actually.
But it can just be baked into another talent already unlimited. That we take.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. 100%.
Because one thing I'm thinking about with this change is they want this different cool play style, which I think could be great. Does that mean we're going to be pressing Bloodthirst? Does that mean they, like, during our cooldown window, we're going to have to start pressing Whirlwind, which is going to feel shit because it's not one of the 2 buttons we really want to press? Like, I feel like that would really kind of bring the whole Titan... Maybe it could be tied to Titan's Torment itself. I don't know. But I feel like that would really tie it kind of together, as far as...
I feel like this Rampage Rage cost thing is, like, the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Well, because it, like... What does it accomplish? That's what I've been, like, trying to think about over the past couple days, is, like, genuinely, what does reducing Rampage's rage cost actually do for us?
Because the thing...
And it's like, okay, so it doesn't synergize with anger management because you're spending the same amount of rage. It doesn't synergize with Reckless Abandon because you only really want to be pressing Raging Blow or Crushing Blow and Bloodbath anyways. And it sure as shit doesn't synergize well with our tier set. So it's like, okay, what does this do then?
Well, funnily enough, I think Titan's Torment is actually built around the idea of our tier set, and this is going to be kind of... it's going to be kind of a stretch. This is going to be a big stretch, and hear me out. Because they want Bloodthirst to be essentially available every other global, what they're going to want you to do during the Titan's Torment window is track whether or not every time you hit Rampage, it's supposed to buff either your Bloodthirst or your Crushing Blow, right? So now you're supposed to play this fucking whack-a-mole. Oh, I got a Crushing Blow proc this time. I hit that. Oh, I got a Bloodbath. Hit that. So it's basically, it'll be available every other global since you're rampaging anyway, but you're going to be playing this weird fucking tier set whack-a-mole inside this fucking... if we have a lot of extra haste, which we're gonna have more haste because it's a new tier, new stats, whatever, it might be really, really awkward, actually.
I think if it wasn't when you gain a stack of winning streak, and instead it was like when you end your winning streak, you get this buff, it would make more sense. But like 15% chance is like very frequent. That's like, you could get that like back to back very easily. Like the chance to remove the winning streak. I think tying it to Rampage is a bad idea. Especially like when you have a talent that's like, oh yeah, you want to press Rampage more because it costs less rage. It's just like, it's... Oh god, the amount of anti-synergy in our tier set just makes me want to fucking punch my monitor.
It is really weird where it's almost like I feel like it's the same issue as Test of Might, where they just didn't learn from it with Test of Might and Sudden Death, where we didn't want to press sudden death in our test of might window because it didn't count towards the rage generated. And it's the same exact problem where it's like, hey, we're losing damage by pressing the button we want to press.
It just like it's so odd when I look at like it's so weird. Like maybe this is just like maybe it's just symptomatic of the melee keyword sucking. But like man, they have ones that are good too. You know, like the Unholy and the Ret ones, I've seen both, and they look pretty insane.
But why do we get nothing when we lose winning streak? Right? Like the whole,
who knows?
Like
exactly.
Like, it's like the whole fucking like we're literally gonna what's literally gonna happen is I'm gonna have a weak aura that whenever I get the buff, it's gonna pop up on the like middle left of my screen a bloodthirst icon or a crushing blow icon, and then I'm just gonna hit that one before I hit the next, before I like hit another button. Like that's all it's gonna be, because every time we get a winning streak, it's by hitting our abilities, not even hitting our rampage.
Yeah, so it's really, really awkward. And like you look at stuff like Unholy, right? And they literally have like during Dark Transformation, you can't reset your winning streak, and it operates at like 100% effectiveness or some shit. And it's like, holy fuck! Like, why can't we get something like that?
And the funny
that is fucking crazy.
The funny thing is the arms set. When you lose winning streak, you gain something, right? Yeah. But the Fury doesn't. It's like it's a. Well, that's one of the reasons why. I mean, I feel like they're probably going to change it. I feel like it kind of needs to be changed for the Fury 4 set. But it's one of the reasons why I think arms might, if they don't, arms might be the go-to next year, because just simply we have shit that fucking functions and works the way you think it should. Because if you play Fury, I think one of the biggest issues that the game has faced recently in terms of balance is damage variance within how specs are set up. Enhancement Shaman is a great indicator of how damage variance is crazy. Outlaw Rogue is kind of that way, where it's just like, hey, it's kind of the did you get a 6 buff spec. It plays decently otherwise. Like, I still like my Outlaw Rogue, but you know that it has that variance in it. But some of the things that have been the most broken, or have been things that have not been tuned well or quickly, I think have to deal with the amount of damage variance they have. Because if they nerf them too much with that variance, then they're just going to be relatively shit when they're technically decent. And it's a very unhealthy place to be for classes. Even though they do like procs and they like tracking things and that kind of stuff, I do really think that the sheer amount of variance in the classes has actually been somewhat problematic in terms of balance, at least.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's been like a mounting issue for a while now, though. Like, they were pretty heavy on like casino shit in Shadowlands as well. There's a ton of stuff that was like complete fucking bad expansion though.
Yeah, I really feel like there's got to be something, some more notes, something else to look at, some like numbers tuning, because the Fury set is just terrible. I think the gameplay it provides is very, very bad. It's not the problem I have with it is it's like if they want to be casino themed in a casino, when you pull the lever, something happens. The tier set for Fury has no lever. Stuff just happens. You know?
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Like, Rampage ends our winning streak, but do we get anything from that? Does something happen from that cha-ching? No. Nope. It's just literally, hey, you hit buttons, and then your crushing your raging blow or your bloodthirst do a little more damage. I don't know. It just feels so awkward. And we're looking at that. The reason why I feel very weird about it is we're looking at that change on top of the Titan's Torment change and on top of the Reckless Abandon change, which are going to make it far, far more of a ridiculous damage variance. Because if you look at something like Fury and you look at like the execute window, your next Bloodthirst deals 15% increased damage and have 25 increased chance to critically strike. For that's the Bloodthirst side of the potential proc.
Yeah,
that's bonus. That's bonus damage on top of Vicious Contempt, maybe on top of even like in Champion Spear or something, the actual variance of that is going to be night and day in an execute phase. Like literally, if you don't get a bunch of bloodthirst winning streaks or whatever, you could quite literally do 10 to 15% less damage inside your burst window.
Also, the Raging Blow bonus is just like comically worse than the Bloodthirst bonus. It's like actually hilarious how much worse it is. It's just 15% damage and 2 additional rage. It's like, it's really bad compared to 15% damage and 25% increased chance to crit.
I think one of the largest mistakes they've made with Fury, going into the changes and the tier sets and the talents, has been the fact that they want you to press both buttons. They want you to press them.
I don't think there's a problem with wanting to press both of them, but the way you would go about achieving that is not the way they're doing it, you know? Like, you incentivize different button presses by having synergy between those two buttons, not by just, like, putting these two counterproductive buffs on a tier set. Like, I don't know. There's like, I genuinely, I have nothing good to say about this tier set. Absolutely nothing. It's horrible. It's really fucking bad.
It is more casino than I want.
Also, like, I mean, this tier set pretty heavily incentivizes just like taking Titan's Torment and completely ignoring Rampage for the duration of your CDs. Because, you know, the 1.5 second CD reduction on Bloodthirst makes it so that you can basically just go Bloodthirst button, right? Like, that's the Mirror Soul bit.
And with the change like to Reckless Abandon, since we don't have a way to buff it to Bloodbath consistently, it's going to be even weirder.
Well, it's just all the time, right? So it's like during CDs, right? During Recklessness and Avatar, because it's static 1.5 minute CD, you're just going to be like, you're going to pop your buttons, you're going to press Rampage once, and you're probably just going to take Powerful and Rage, so that for the next 5 seconds, you just press Bloodthirst and fucking Raging Blow, or Bloodbath and Raging, or Crushing Blow, for like the next 4 globals, and then you press Rampage to get Enrage again, and then you just do, like, you just cycle it, you know? You don't actually give a fuck about pressing Rampage or the Rage costs associated with Titan's Torment. It just doesn't matter. You're gonna ignore it. So you're going to end up wasting, honestly, probably even more rage than we're wasting now, I would guess. And yeah, it's just, these changes make no sense. You're probably going to get a lot of like value out of the tier set, but you're not going to be pressing Rampage, because that shit stinks. Compared to,
the funny thing is,
like, it also depends on the bleed from Bloodbath and shit like that, but...
Well, the other thing, too, is, like, one of the things that make Rampage a good button to press is the fact that we're pressing Crushing Blow, because it gets buffed through Slaughter. Like I don't know a single... So what spenders... I don't know a lot about other classes, but how many other classes do you think have a thing that's like, hey, when you press this button, your primary spender does 20% more damage?
I would suspect very few.
Because Arms was that way with Overpower, technically.
Yeah, no, so, yeah. I mean, both warrior specs are basically the same. There's very little difference in how you play each of them, which is, like, kind of interesting. Because that's, like, pretty wild.
Yeah,
there's just no difference. You just press your fucking buttons and press your spender.
Yeah, well, the reason why I really think there is going to be additional notes is the thing that this change also allows us to maintain Odin's Fury as a powerful and signature Fury ability, independent of Avatar.
And it sucks.
But
it literally just sucks without Titan's Torment.
That's the problem. It says allows us to maintain Odin's Fury. Not rebuff. Not readjust, but maintain. Odin's Fury, by itself right now, without Titan's Torment, is not worth pressing, nor is it worth taking.
No, it stinks. You would never talent it without Titan's Torment. Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming they're just going to tune it up. I would hope that they would change the capstones, but I don't have much hope there. And, like, the fact that we got these changes, but there's, like, nothing for the most obvious, like, shit talents in our tree at all is, like, insane to me. Like, how is Onslaught still the way it is? How is Tenderize still the way it is? How does Storm of Steel still exist? And then you have stuff like, Unbridled Ferocity and Depths of Insanity, which just suck. Like, they're just bad. And the only reason they're starting to come up now is because everything else has been nerfed to the point where it just doesn't matter. Like, we're already at a point where we'd prefer to take tier 2 talents over tier 3. We're just sort of running out of tier 2 talents to take.
Outside of, like, single-minded Fury, almost all of them are better than shit like Onslaught.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Like, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of shit they could change. I'm hoping that a lot of it does get changed. Yeah,
because
I don't know when this. I'll tell you this: when these patch notes dropped, I didn't feel a fucking single ounce of joy. There is like not a joyful bone in my body. Nothing about this like made me happy. Actually, seeing the Titan's Torment was like kind of interesting. It made me happy that they can make Odin's Fury powerful on its own again, which was cool. But the only good part about that is like the Bloodthirst CDR reduction. And even then, it's tied to a minute and a half cooldown, so it's like not even that frequent.
The funny thing is the Bloodthirst CDR reduction technically isn't new. They just stole it from Deft Experience after they removed it from that. They changed it.
I think it's a... Yeah.
Our Torments are just fucking terrible, man. Like, they're not interesting. They're not fun. They're not... Like, they might be okay, but, like, the arms ones aren't good at all. Nobody's taken fucking Blade Master's Torment. Warlord's Torment is so mediocre. Nobody wants to take... Like, a cap...
I think...
we have 11 talent points to spend at the end of our tree, and one of those talent points gives us 8 seconds of recklessness every minute and a half for arms? Like, what are we... Like, huh? What are we doing here?
Yeah, no, talent. The Torments have just fizzled. I think their novelty is worn off, and people are starting to see that they're like not very good for design.
Fuck it, kill them both, and then
I think they should just kill Avatar in general. Just fucking remove it.
They should just kill them both and just put a point in there that either says increase Avatar's cooldown by 30 seconds or reduce Avatar's cooldown by 30 seconds, and fucking add damage to the cooldown.
Just nuke it.
I don't know, man.
Just fucking nuke Avatar from orbit and put the power in recklessness. I just like, you kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You nuke the most boring damage cooldown in the entire game, and you make recklessness better because it's dog shit. It's like there's no losing there. Absolutely none. But yeah, that's a different story, I suppose.
It is. It is weird. I keep going back to it, but they must have something new or something different. They have to, because otherwise, the reason why I think none
of it makes sense on its own.
Yeah,
like literally all of it is completely ridiculous if this is all they have.
Like, if they changed it this way, then Fury is... I wouldn't say Fury is necessarily completely dead as we know it, but like it is not the same class. Like,
wish it was.
Like a lot of people, like when I was talking to or being doomer about it in Skyhold, everyone's like, "Well, you're just pressing the same buttons anyway." It's like, no, dude. Like, this is... The entire spec will function far, far differently with the removal of Reckless Abandon, with the change to it.
I mean, our sustain damage, it's certainly going to go down the fucking toilet. And like the other thing is like, this does like artificially add more value to Unbridled Ferocity, which is good in a sense, but not enough, I would think. Like, you're going to use it, but that's only really because all of our other capstones suck.
I mean, like, Unbridled Ferocity is a bottom tier capstone that gives us a 6% chance to grant...
It's real bad.
To grant recklessness for 4 seconds.
It's really bad.
And every 30 seconds, a paladin hits Wake of Ashes and gets wings.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm trying to reserve judgment until they actually like have a chance to get back in the office and iterate. currently, the way that I feel about this is basically like, this was probably just backlogged stuff, and this is probably early iterations. They're probably a couple weeks ahead, and this is just like what they had available and what they had ready, and they just pushed it out. That's what I'm hoping for, anyways.
So I'm assuming they just looked at raid logs over the past like 3 months and just saw the same shit in every single one of them and went, this ain't good.
I think they probably just didn't like the way that Reckless Abandon was functioning, and they probably didn't like the fact that they had to design so strictly around specifically Titan's Torment. And they probably just came to the decision that like both of those things needed to change, and they didn't look too much deeply into it.
Well, it was
and, like past that.
It was such a problem that they were independently tuning Bloodbath from Bloodthirst. Like,
yeah,
because it just
like I don't think that's like a problem per se, but it's like it's more just an issue of like this talent provides too much value all of the time. Like the way that it was operating before, where it like gives you value throughout the entire fight through pressing Rampage, is probably a little bit too strong, and it's also like antithetical to what that talent node should represent. So that's like their logic was probably just that it creates weird gameplay where you have to make sure you press both buttons every time before you press Rampage again, and that's a little bit unintuitive. But I think it's good that they moved away from it because it's poorly designed in relation to what anger management is.
Yeah, I do think
like they're not even competing talent points. They're both sustained damage talent points right now. And it's like, okay, which one sustains damage better? Like, unless you need very precise CD timing, RA is just always going to be better
and more forgiving. Because if you don't have every second of uptime is just negative damage. Because they're even, right? Because they're even, every second of negative uptime is just less damage for AM. And I do think it's funny that once again, ARM. I feel like that change to Roar is actually targeted at Fury instead of ARMS. For Thunderous Words.
Yeah.
Because I think
it's a bit of both, but definitely they're keeping Bloodbath in mind, 100%.
Well, I think the thing that's funny is like I'm reading the Bloodbath tooltip now that we have the actual tooltip and the PTR one.
Yeah, it's a lot of damage.
180% attack power, damage bleed over 6 seconds, and every single time you hit it with Bloodbath, it extends the bleed for 6 seconds. So
so that's interesting.
So theoretically, we're gonna have
you could have a really, really long dot that does a lot of
damage bleed on these guys, which I think that I'm cool with that, but I also find it very that also means that I wonder if Fury's Bloodborne is going to get nerfed as well, because it also double dips with Odin's Fury in terms of bleed.
Well, so the thing with Fury's Bloodborne is that it specifically affects Odin's Fury, Thunderous Roar, and Gushing Wounds, so you don't really have to worry about it affecting Bloodbath.
Oh, that is true.
Yeah, so it's not a big issue, although I will say Bloodborne value goes down significantly now that we only have one Odin's Fury, unless they like buff it by literally 100%.
Because there's
that talent is just not so, because like what are we taking it for? You know,
you can just take another point Vicious Contempt instead.
Yeah, it just makes our bloodbath damage higher. But it's like, you know, we got double value out of it every minute and a half from Titan's Torment, old Titan's Torment.
Do you think that bleed is going to scale with Vicious Contempt damage?
Probably not. It's a flat AP percent. Well, maybe. It depends on if they code it as bloodbath damage or if they give it its own dot. They could like also just blacklist and whitelist shit. They probably have to do that. So maybe it's safe to assume that it just doesn't work. But
that bleed doing 50% more damage.
It's a lot. It's big. It's big for sure. It would be cool if it worked like that, but I would hazard a guess that it will not. It would be cool if it did. But it would probably be a little bit too strong. I don't like the way that dot works. The fact that it's like extension of the duration and not like igniting or something. You'd
rather keep the duration but up the damage.
Yeah, Yeah, just like add all damage, like make it accumulate, you know?
Yeah.
Like Ignite.
Well, make it like old deep wounds, technically.
I also think that it makes the functionality of the bleed much less ambiguous. Like, because like right now we read it and it's like, okay, are we just gonna have like a fucking like 50-second dot by the time our cooldowns are over? That seems kind of insane. And if it's not that, and if it like caps at a certain duration, it's like, okay, well, why are we pressing buttons beyond that duration?
Oh, you know what? I can't wait. I can't fucking wait until we get this thing, and the boss goes into the bosses all have like an immune phase, and the bleed just is fucking doing jack shit. Like we just lose all the value of it. It's like, well,
yep, that'll be good too. That'll be really good. I'm excited to see how it works on AoE. I mean, I'm not how it works, but I'm excited to see it work on AoE because it's gonna do big fuck 5 target damage, like big fuck 5 target damage.
I mean, the change to reckless abandon alone in cooldowns might make us actually the best 5 target. Finally, make us the best 5 target spec in the game, considering
I mean
every other class is beating us at 5 targets, even though we're capped at 5, and they're like
this is like the next issue is like, okay, we might be the best 5 target spec in the game on in cooldowns, but like what happens after cooldowns? You know, we're just gonna fall off a cliff.
Well, the thing,
or you're just gonna pray for one unbridled ferocity proc every 5 minutes because it's a 6% chance.
And then in that window, you're gonna be like, if you don't min max 2 bloodbaths within that proc, then you're just gonna be fucked.
Yeah. About the only good thing I have to say about the rage reduction on Rampage for the new Titan's Torment is that it makes Unbridled Ferocity like 25% better because you get a 25% reduction on rage, which is like, you know, more rampages, which means more chances to proc the thing, which is good. But are you even going to want to press rampage during it is kind of what I'm wondering. Like aside from reprocking in rage. I suppose we'll have to wait and see a little bit.
Because it's like, that is true, because it's Crushing Blow still does a lot of damage.
Yeah, it does.
And then any global not spent pressing Bloodbath based on the values I'm looking at is going to be a wasted global. So it's like...
Well, so this is the other interesting thing, right? Like, so let's say, for example, that the Bloodbath dot caps at 12 seconds. Why would you want to press Bloodbath if you're going to go over the cap, right? So I could see a world where it's like, you have Titan's Torment, you want to press Rampage and Bloodbath a lot, but you press it twice and then you're at the 12-second cap, so you don't want to press Bloodbath again until the next 6-second buff doesn't go over 12 seconds. And it's like, okay, so then why do I have the CDR? There's like just so much anti-synergy that could come from these talent changes. It just like...
And that's not even considering...
It doesn't inspire, for sure.
Because that's also not even considering you still have to press fucking Whirlwind in AoE. As it stands currently, you're going to have to spend one of the most valuable globals in the game on fucking Whirlwind.
It is pretty wild. They did buff Whirlwind, by the way. I don't know if you saw that.
Did they?
They buffed it from like 13% attack power to like 14% attack power. It was huge.
Was it
not in the notes? It was in data mining. But take my word for it. It went from 13% AP per like Whirlwind tick to 14%. It's huge. Big damn.
God awful.
Yeah. I don't know. A lot of these changes I'm trying not to doom because I'm assuming that they're not all like I'm assuming this isn't all we have. But even the changes that they did make don't exactly inspire confidence. It really just feels like they still have no idea what they want to do with Warrior.
Which is kind of been the way it is. Which is probably why we never got a full rework, honestly.
Yeah. It's also weird because it's like, I'm sure by the time like midnight comes or something, we'll have received, in quotes, a full rework, but it's not going to be like by way of the fact that we got a bunch of changes at once. It's just going to be like the accumulated amount of changes that we've gotten since Dragonflight launch till now amounts to a full rework, which also just doesn't really feel good because like it's like this delayed gratification shit where like you're getting part of the thing. It's like they're fucking edging us. You know, like we're just never getting the full fucking shebang. We're just getting a bunch of like random shit that doesn't make sense in the current iteration.
And then
but like, oh, maybe it'll make sense next patch.
And then Paladin needs to get reworked a third time. We need to make sure BM Hunter is the best single target spec in the game, so we're gonna have to rework that. Where we're pack leader again for the second time. Like Monk, yeah. I think Monk definitely deserved their rework. And
I don't think that there's any spec that's been undeserving of one. I just think it's ridiculous that they can't put more brain power into making Fury as good as it could be, or like Warrior as good as it could be. Both specs, both DPS specs. I don't give a fuck about prot. They can rot.
Because like one thing I do struggle with when I consider, if Warrior got a rework as a whole, what would I even fucking want that's different from what it is now? You know what I mean? Like what? Like I look at it.
I know exactly what I'd change, and it is literally everything. I would change literally everything.
I mean, for me, as long as like I feel like Fury, like realistically, when I look at it, I want Fury to be the fucking meat grinder spec, right? I see Fury as the fucking multi-target meat grinder spec, and I see Arms as the do big damn single target spec, like that, or just big hit, like individual big hits as Arms for me. And Fury is not necessarily death by 1,000 cuts, but Fury is more of like a meat grinder kind of specialization.
You're just a fucking wrecking ball, right? Like you're just fucking swinging around like a wild freak, bashing buildings and shit. I think the death by 1,000 cuts design is shit. If I'm being honest, I think it's bad.
I feel like it's
low
more
damage, high APM. Like I don't see a reason why you can't have high APM and also fulfilling GCDs. Like there's no reason that Bloodthirst can't hit hard or feel good to press while also being on like a short cooldown and Fury having high APM.
Like imagine if they changed fucking, I don't know if I'd like it, but imagine like if we were thinking stats, if they changed Fury to like a fucking crit, like a crit burst spec or some shit like that.
I think if you wanted to change the stat priority of Fury at all, you would go crit mastery. I mean, versatility is a stat. I just think it shouldn't exist.
That is true. Versus one of the most
go back to
boring stats in the game.
It should be multi-strike, honestly. Like it dead ass should be multi-strike. I don't know if you know what multi-strike is, but it was a tertiary in WoD that basically gave your attacks a chance to like hit again. It was basically like Elemental Shaman's Elemental Overload.
Elemental Overload fucking is sick, dude. Like
it's sick. It's sick as fuck. Like, imagine if every spec in the game had it.
I've been playing my Ellie, Maddox Mud Hut. So
yeah, no, Ellie's super fun.
Also, Elemental Shaman. Actually, you know, here, let me bring it up real quick. I want to see if the percent is the same because I feel like it might actually be the same, and it's going to be really funny. Where is it?
What, the DRE proc chance?
What the fuck? Is it 6%? No.
They changed it now. Now that you're on 11.0, it's they basically changed it the same way that Tactician works, where it's a percent chance per resource, like per point of resource spent. But yes,
yeah, DRE,
you are correct.
7%.
DRE is the same as fucking.
It's better than 4
ferocity.
It's better than 4 seconds of recklessness. You pop Ascendance, all these fucking.
It is.
Lava bursts fly out of you.
Crazy.
And you just explode it. You just your main cooldown. You just get 6 seconds of it.
Yeah, it is fucking insane, man. It is disgusting.
And then we're sitting around here farting with fucking.
And they probably have like similar resource gen as us. It's probably not too different.
But at least right now, there's a little more downtime. But I don't have enough haste to. Because the overload and shit is all through mastery. It'll probably feel way different getting more mastery and haste because you'll just get more procs.
Yeah, I just fucking fuck it, dude. Let me do it. Give me the power. I will rework Fury. It'll be sick.
But moving, I guess, the last little bit of the moving, more positively, I think this patch thematically is gonna fucking rule. Like, I can't believe how cool the whole goblin thing, the Galagio, I think the raid fights are gonna be sick. The zones, the cars. I was not expecting this level of thematics throughout the entire patch, but holy shit!
I think the mechanics are going to be a lot less annoying to deal with, and that's about like the only thing I'm excited for.
And the fact that they said they have designed a brand new type of swirly, that is exciting to me.
Oh, didn't they say something about like making the swirly more visual too?
Yeah,
like
I don't know exactly what visibility. They're doing, but like having a swirly that doesn't. Why do the edges fade? I mean, I feel like the only reason the edges fade out into nothing and it's ambiguous garbage is they don't want to make it a flat circle and make it like Final Fantasy 14. Like they're worried about having just a circle, which I like. Make it an option, bro. Give me non-immersion mode. I want a circle.
Yeah, they do have like similar to how the talent trees have like they have like different talent node shapes for different types of talents, right? So they have the octagon for choice nodes, they have the circles for passives, and like the rounded squares for actives. They also have different types of circles on the ground for different types of mechanics. So like circles with no animation in the center are usually meteors that you have to soak. Swirlies are stuff that you want to stay out of, and there's like one more type of circle that's like something else. But I'm cool with that, like the swirls and the fading and shit. They just need to have like a clear outline around it. That's all. Like that's all. And they need to like not make it blend in with the floor like they always seem to do for no reason.
Yeah, every tier it's purple on purple, green on green.
Yeah.
Like
yep.
I mean,
I will say
literally they could make it purple on green and have it be like poison or something instead of nature. Like I don't know. They have a way around making it thematic to where you would be far more apparent.
Yep, they certainly do. They certainly do.
My cook for the next tier is I feel like if they do this, it's going to be on an early boss, so it won't be that big of a problem.
You think we're going to have a drifting boss?
Not a drifting boss. I think we're going to have a boss that has a % chance to do a different mechanic. Where it's like I think one of the bosses I think Dratno said that one of the bosses called One-Armed Bandit, but a One-Armed Bandit is a slot machine.
Yeah.
But imagine if during the fight, like it's not predetermined, and it's like maybe it's like the 4th fight in the tier or something. It's not predetermined, and it's like a 1 in 3 or a 1 in 4 chance of a different separate mechanic going out from that. I think that would be
okay. So basically, like you have like 4 mechanics, right?
And it would equal chance to cast any of them.
Okay, so like basically the boss has like set timers where it casts an ability, and it just like rolls the dice every time it has one of those timers pop up.
Because like imagine the boss does
basically what you're suggesting.
Like imagine you're doing the boss room, like the floor. The boss does something, and it segments the areas of the floor.
Okay,
then it casts like I don't know. It casts hit the lever, and then it's you have to figure out what. What if it segments the room into 4 parts, and each part has a different mechanic that pops up in it, and it's not consistent. So it's 4 mechanics in each square. But I'm cooking a little too hard with this. But
I could see something like that being something they do, but it would have to be like an ad fight. Or like, one of those fights where it's like the boss doesn't interact with the raid and it's like it just spawns shit.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, an ad fight, right? Like, so you have
it could summon a bunch of coin golems or some shit.
Yeah.
So like you're technically hitting
the room does like a different thing, and like maybe the slot machine does a roll on which one's empowered or something like that.
Like it makes you split into like 4 groups and soak a hit, and then those sections.
Yeah, I don't think you could do like random mechanics per se, but you could do something similar, like randomizing which mechanic gets empowered or something like that.
Yeah, I just thought of a fight where it's like, what if they just did one of the earlier bosses where it's literally has a % chance to just cast a different mechanic and it's different every single time.
I think
that might be, if it's early enough and not that big of a problem. Like the problem is,
I think I would probably hate that.
If they did that, I feel like the boss would have to be almost easy to compensate for it instead of being able to learn the fight. But I feel like
I'm not even sure it'd be like particularly difficult. You just have to. It would require a lot of out of raid planning because like you couldn't really consistently practice mechanics. You basically have to rely on people to gain knowledge outside of raid, and then come into the raid with like a firm plan of like what to do if they get X mechanic.
Yeah.
But that's not really much different from what we do now already. So I'm not even sure if it would like be a difficult fight per se. It would just be like
I feel like it would just be almost like a Terra Groove, right? Like an early, just like thematically fun thing.
Yeah,
like
sure.
Like imagine like if it's a slot machine, imagine the entrance to the raid, like the first boss. I don't want to bring up ideas of Hellfire Assault, but the idea of the first thing being that you're essentially breaking this fucking slot machine,
like a giant slot machine.
Yeah, it's a big slot machine, and you're fighting ads, and it's doing random bullshit, and you break it open, and that's your entrance or something into the raid. I don't know. I don't think
it's put it past them. That's for sure.
I don't think it's gonna be that, but I think that would be like thematically fun enough that they might. I don't know.
I think there's a lot of interesting potential with the new tier. I'm excited for the raid fights, but that's like pretty much it at this point. Honestly, I wish they never posted these patch notes. If I'm being completely honest,
I would rather a full cook than a half cook for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I wish I didn't know anything about the Warrior changes because now I'm just upset.
It's like some of them aren't even like big changes. Like it's like, hey, Veteran of the Third War nerfed, null magic nerf, like stuff like that. Like okay, that was expected, I think.
Yep.
But sure. I
think what I want is for Warrior to have been completely omitted from these talent notes. I think I would have been more happy with that than
like instead of class changes, they were just being like, "Hey guys, look at some cool." Although I don't even know if that'd be enough. Because I think one of the reasons
just a note that said like, "Hey guys, we have some changes for Warrior coming. We're not ready to reveal all of them just yet, but like we haven't forgotten about you."
Yeah, I mean the top note does say these changes are for the first week of PTR testing and do not contain the full patch notes. Like it's fine, but I honestly feel like some of this is just a knee jerk reaction. Like giving us all of this information is a bit of a reaction to essentially, I would say, the abject failure of Siren Island.
Yeah, like, that's probably a good way to put it.
Because like it's literally the thing that's so weird about it is maybe they overcooked with it, but it feels weirdly it just feels weird that it's literally the Forbidden Reach and the Onyx Amulet again, and the island is even smaller than the Forbidden Reach area, and it's just infinitely
less content.
It's just infinitely worse. Like even if it's the fact that it's smaller isn't even a problem. It's just that okay, so they're going to release this stuff, but you're going to get everybody's going to want to get the cool ring and the upgrade. And they're like, okay, we're going to buff all the we're going to buff all the gems. Okay, cool. Okay, the ring is still shit. We're going to buff it to base 642 on the first week to make it even worth getting at all. Okay, cool. We have content to go do for something that's a reward. But then it's a mix of DPS and healing gems, so it's not even an upgrade at all for anybody. And it's like, and then they had to like emergency fucking hotfix this shit on a Friday, and to put all these gems into the game, and we're like, and it's like, man, like brother, like what's going on? You know what I mean? Like
I kind of feel bad for them because they probably felt like they were introducing this thing that was going to have rotating factions that are going to be on the island, which I feel like that's just their way of making more content with less, because which is fine. I mean, honestly,
I don't really care either way.
Things that reduce
I think
development time so they can work on other stuff we would like, I think is good. Like I don't want to say, oh, they're lazy or all that. Like, no, that is completely ridiculous to say and consider those things, because I feel like
my only real issue is that they like hard gated the acquisition of the best gems, and it's like, okay, well, like you realize the only reason people want to go here is for the fucking ring, right? Like, yeah, there's some cool mounts, and some people will engage with that, but you know, the majority of your player base at this point is like incredibly performance driven. Even like the not so good players, casuals. they want the new stuff. They want the new power levels. That part was like the worst, and they realized it quickly, which is good. Like, what did you expect? You know, this is a lesson you already learned with the fucking Onyx Amulet.
Yeah, like. Well, the thing is, you could pick what things you wanted with the amulet. Like, you could actually like.
But it was also like it wasn't cemented acquisition, right? So the Onyx Amulet, like you collected currency and then you bought a certain type of gem, and then it had a pool to pull from, and you slot machined your way to the best stuff, and it was all farmable in like a week. And I think that's like the best thing that you could have done. I think they should have just done that again.
Well, the thing, like, in terms of like some like value, the amount of, I'll be honest, I feel like they're putting too many little cosmetic, like, it's almost like bloatware, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of like filler pieces.
Well, there's so many like, there's like over I think it's what, like 100,000 flame touched iron or something to get everything, because there's like 4 different vendors that all have like multiple ensembles and individual.
Which I mean, that part is crazy.
Which I mean, I like getting cool rewarded stuff is good. It's just it feels weird that, I mean, maybe it's just it could be a thing where it's obviously just not for me, right? It could be more for like the casual player base, where they're like, hey, you guys want cosmetics, and we have this different, you can get a different color of the like Murloc like inner tube around you through this guy, and then this guy's got a wave racer mount, and like I think I feel like I'm at odds with it, because maybe it's on it could honestly just be it's not for me. It's for definitely a player base. It's like, hey, yeah, I'll do this, I'll farm this stuff out, because you can infinitely farm the like killing little baby mobs for iron doesn't make any sense. Like, you can infinitely farm the caverns for I think like 200 a piece or something, but then
holy shit,
like that means you have to do, any ensemble is 3,000, so if you get 200 every time, it's what, like 2, 4, 6, 8, 15 if you get 2k every 200 every time. So that means you're sitting there and you're waiting. You have to wait 3 minutes for every single one. Like
it's like
I don't know.
It's like
it's definitely
time killing holiday content, right?
Yeah,
I have no issue with that.
Yeah, no. I honestly, the more I think about it, the more it's like, you know what, this just might not be some of the content for me. Like, I'm someone that would want the rewards and the transmogs, but I am not willing to like
engage with the content,
because realistically, it's like, okay, well, what could I do, right? I could sit here and I could basically AFK gather a bunch of this currency, or I could play PoE 2, or I could play Marvel Rivals, or I could read a book, or get water to drink, and like I would like that more than this. So maybe it's just not for me, and that's totally fine. But I guess it also, like, having all those kind of cosmetic rewards keeps that kind of content, I don't want to say valuable, because I don't know how valuable cosmetics are to a lot of people, but it keeps it like relevant or something. not even necessarily evergreen, but like something you can go do if you want. Because every
I think
single mob's health scales. Like you can solo every mob in there, so it's.
I would relate it to like lore master content. It's just like, and it's stuff that you do for achievements. It's collectible shit.
Yeah,
which is like it's good to have in the game and to continue adding sources for
like,
it because it's about the only content that like new players might actually play for.
Because like I would do like on Dragon or on War Within launch, I did every single quest, not because like, oh, I like doing lore map. Like I have essentially the lore master of the War Within areas, but it's because they gave rep rewards and you want those. Like that's the only reason I did them. But there's also nothing else to do, right? We had the normal week, or we had the pre-release week into the normal week into the heroic week with capped rewards, then into the like we basically from launch we almost had like a month of nothing. So I was like, all right, I guess I'll fucking do all the quests.
Well, so like we had pre-release, and then we had 2 weeks of doing nothing, and then we had a week of heroic, and then it was mythic, right? I think so. It like was literally 4 weeks.
I think heroic week is probably healthier for the game,
but it's really good.
But I do agree. But I also at the same time wanna log in and just be like, okay, well, I'm just gonna. It's weird because it feels like the best thing to do is just, hey, I'm gonna slam Mythic Plus until I get my 613 equivalent gear. Then we're gonna go do heroic and people can get the rewards they want. And we're gonna try and single out trinkets and all this kind of shit, right? Like I don't know.
I feel like when there's no heroic week, there's too much to do in the first week. It feels like really overwhelming to immediately like dive in and try and get fucking 8-10s done in the first week of a tier with like 0 fucking gear.
Because what I feel like is going to end up happening next year is we're going to do our splits. I don't know how hard the heroic is going to be. We'll have to see. But it's just going to be
probably be comparable to this tier.
Well, I mean, guess. But I mean, if we're doing split in-house splits, right? Because we're like, I think it's like 1 or 2. I don't know. I'll have to ask Jake exactly how they do it because I don't remember. But it shouldn't be too bad with a group of like full max geared mythic characters doing heroic next year, right? Like it shouldn't be that big of a deal.
You'd think so.
We'll see. It could be hard.
Yeah, I don't know. I like heroic week. I don't think they should have like moved away from it again, but they're going to. So, yeah, bit sad. I don't like having to log in and just like every piece of content is available, like heroic, mythic, and uncapped mythic plus. I think it's too much for 1 week.
Yeah, it's maybe that's what they want. They will want you. Oh my god, I have so much to do. You're thinking about it.
I don't like that feeling. Yeah, I fucking hate that shit. It's just like it feels like you're punished for not playing the game fucking 24/7. Like,
yeah,
dude,
you don't have a full vault and you haven't farmed every single slot to 613 or whatever, then it's like then you're done for the week.
Well, yeah, like you log in and all of a sudden you have normal, heroic, mythic, and uncapped mythic plus to do. And if you're not, it makes you feel like if you're not doing mythic plus fucking every hour of every day, you're just behind by a lot.
Especially
because there's so much gear to get.
Especially depending on how difficult the early bosses are. I could see a strategy being the first week you do normal and heroic, and then you permafarm mythic plus while other guilds go for like world first in the early part of mythic to see what happens, and then you walk in with full heroic type gear into mythic, and then try and get those myth track pieces because of how important myth track is now and how valuable it is to get. Like imagine being able to get a mythic 2 box week 1. Like it'd be insanely valuable.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like the mythic release, like on release thing. It feels like there's too much to do, and it feels like you're like crazy behind if you're not like logged in on Tuesday, fucking ready to farm Mythic Plus with a group.
Yeah, I think Heroic plus Uncapped Mythic Plus would be great, and then Mythic the week after is what I might prefer. I think what I would personally prefer.
I don't think anyone would disagree with that. It's just like, I don't know. Yeah, you're just overloaded with content. There's too many things to do. Too many. And especially considering the fact that like most Tuesdays are like fucked on maintenance time.
Oh yeah, I still have to transfer. I there's currently a sale on transfers, and I bought. By the way, I still can't believe these fucking services are $25 to send some kilobytes of data over. Like, I can't. It's so crazy. You could send a fucking weak or a string, and your character would be somewhere else. Like, I refused to swap servers until the sale happened. So the sale finally happened. I got. It's great. Like, I still can't believe. Like, a single character transfer is like $25, but I bought 6 of them for $56 because that's just what the sale price was, and it's like
a good deal.
Yeah, I don't know. It's built for that, and it's like somewhat FOMO, and they do sales all the time. But man, I need to. I have to go from the other server to the streamer server because I'll be honest. I feel like Illidan has definitely has fucking big streamer server drives for World First Race since Liquid's on there, because I was on Area 52 for the launch, and Jesus Christ, that Area 52 died over and over and over again.
Yep. Tyke didn't die at all, I don't think. Tyke was fine. But A52 died.
Illidan was also fine, and I think Illidan's bigger than A52.
Yeah, that's odd. A52 is just cursed.
That's why I think it's got it's got fucking streamer servers in there, man.
Yeah, it's possible.
All right. Is there anything else you wanted to yap about? Because I'll be honest, I'm kind of blanking.
I got nothing, man. I just
it's hard to try and deep
I'll
dive.
Just continue like dooming myself in circles and talking about things that I'm mad about. So
it's hard to deep dive into a sandwich when you only have like a bread and a slice of meat compared to the rest of the sandwich.
Yeah, we got some fucking bread, mayo, and cheese, and that's it.
Alrighty, well,
it's not even toasted. No tomato. No fucking meat.
Yeah. Well, I guess that'll be. I do then. I do like having the little gap sesh every now and then.
Yeah, it's fun. It's good to talk about the shit. I just wish there like I don't know. I just wanted more. It would have been nice to have more in this initial patch note, but
it just
I guess we'll just have to wait. It's fine.
It just definitely feels like, I mean, WoW also goes on this cycle, right, where it's like patch is out about 2.5 to 3 months into the patch. Every single content creator is fucking shitting on the game for the next 2 months until the next patch. And then patch comes out, everybody loves it again. Like, that's just kind of the cycle of it.
It's an ARPG, it's a seasonal game.
But this time felt extra bad, and I think that's why they shoved. They're like, hey guys, do stuff! Woo woo! Christmas time, look over here! Wee woo wee woo! You know?
100%. That's like exactly what they did. And I don't necessarily blame them for it. It's just like
good. I mean, I'm excited about the new stuff, right? Like, it definitely worked. Like, it was good, but it's more.
It's just my personal gripes with Warrior and my apathy towards the developers. So.
Yeah, we just need some more sauce. It is undercooked for now.
Yep. Hopefully they fix shit, but I'm not. I don't have an unbelievable amount of confidence in them to do so. So, whatever. I'll play Warrior regardless. Fucking Stockholm Syndrome. So, I guess at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter.
Well, I guess that'll do it. Unfortunately, normally I don't work Tuesdays, but I told them I'd pick up a shift Tuesday morning since it's fucking Christmas Eve.
Fun times.
So I'm probably gonna chill out and get ready.
I'm gonna go fucking watch some Criminal Minds and then go to bed. All right, good talking.
Yep.
See ya.
I'll catch you later, man.
Peace.
Bye-bye.